Initial thoughts, Poirier, McGregor, Lee.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. Am I a little fatigued of the build up to this fight? I think I am. I'm not looking forward to it as much as I thought I would be. I don't see this as a really enticing fight. I see if it ends early, it's Conor. If it ends later, it's Poirier. If it goes to decision, it's probably going to be Poirier's. I don't know. It's kind of turned around very quickly. I don't think there's too much time to make too many changes in terms of techniques. I think it's more strategy than anything else. I think Conor's going to come in a bit more lively, kind of a bit more structured game plan, aware of the calf kicks. But I'm kind of, I don't know, a little indifferent. I don't know whether it's because we're more than a week away and I've kind of not been bitten by the UFC's media machine yet. But I don't know, is that just me or am I being really negative?
I think you're being negative as fuck, Lee.
I don't. I definitely don't.
No,
I can definitely agree a little bit. I agree a little bit with Lee.
Fine. I'm not as excited as the first time it came around, but I don't see any reason why it's not going to be a fantastic fight. That's what I'd say. I think it'll be a great fight. I don't see any reason it wouldn't. Harry, you're making a fucking face at me about this, but last time was great. It wasn't the longest, but it was great. Fine, there are not going to be a huge amount of changes. We're going to see what Conor can do to change it up versus the calf kicks. And it's just going to be more of the same. I mean, they're both going to bring it. None of them are going to stall out. Last time it was really close, despite all of the media shooting down McGregor afterwards. At the end of the day, he clearly won the first round and had Poirier in trouble. And there was one technique that worked particularly well against McGregor, and it'd be interesting to see if he can mitigate that, and then to see how the fight goes. Yeah, I mean, I don't see what. Fine, I'm not as buzzing for this one as I was the first one, but I think you've still been a bit negative.
So I think Poirier's plan is going to be quite wrestle heavy, and I think it's going to be. He felt the power, he felt the threat from the first round the first time. And I think you see on Conor's Twitter, he's like, first one to shoot this and first one to do wrestling's this. Like, he knows that, and he knows he can hurt Poirier. Poirier knows that. And I think that's where the change will be. The calf kicks will probably be 0 this time. I think it's going to be more wrestling heavy, kind of clinch up, take the sting out of Conor early. And it's a good game plan, and I think it would probably work. I'm probably siding more towards Poirier than Conor at this point. But I don't know. I think, do you know what? I think next week, once I start engaging with Instagram and Twitter and the fight really starts to build, maybe I'll get a bit more into it. But I think it's maybe come a bit too soon, or I'm not that bothered.
Ian, before I shit all over this, go on.
When it comes to the excitement factor around Conor McGregor fights, it's definitely not where his previous fights have been. Maybe that's down to the fact that, he went on such a great run. And we were all caught up in the magic of that run as well. Maybe it's down to the fact that he's lost his last 4 fights in a row-ish. I guess Cowboy Cerrone won, if you want to count that. But, when you lose a bit of star power, and for him, he's not doing that much media anymore. We were talking about world tours, we were talking about this and this and that in the Aldo fight, and he was doing tons and tons of media. The media has stopped now. He doesn't really need to do as much media anymore. When you're not doing that media, that doesn't help with the excitement factor. You're not hearing little snippets. You're not hearing any of the shit talk. I'm hearing that he's not going to be doing any media at all. I don't know if he is going. He'll probably go to the press conference and stuff like that. Hopefully he has a sit down with Ariel Helwani. Maybe that might happen. But what I'm hearing is that he's not going to be doing too much media on the build up to this fight. That's pretty clear. We're a week away now, and we haven't heard much from him. The odd tweet here and there. I'm the same as you guys, where I'm not really hyped or too excited right now about the fight, but I think it will come later on next week when we get closer, and we're all going to be sitting on the edge of our seats when they're facing off in the octagon next Saturday night. When it comes down to the fight itself, movement for Conor McGregor is the key in this fight. And how he moves. Does he go back to his old style? He's in and out stance, kind of karate style, wide stance, he's in and out movement. It complemented the power that he had in his left hand, because it was a combination of two things. You know, he has that sick power that in his left hand and his right hand. He's power in both hands, but his in and out movement, a combination with that and his left hand, is what got him so much success in the UFC. When you have that power and you're moving forward with that power as well, it obviously creates more power, and he needs to get back to that. His movement in the first fight was perfect and it counteracted Poirier. His movement in the second fight was awful. Approached it with the boxing stance and just stood in front of Poirier and was just a target to be hit at any time Poirier wanted. I kind of agree with the fact that Poirier probably will not lean on the leg kicks as much in this third fight. I think that, he will probably implement a bit more wrestling, and I think he'll probably try and play it safe in rounds 1 and rounds 2 with McGregor and try not open up too much. And then once McGregor starts to tire like he does in certain fights in rounds 3, 4, and 5, I can see Poirier maybe turning the screw a little bit on McGregor as well. But for me, it's movement. And, you know, he spoke the last time about not having to sit down on the stool for the first time in his career in between rounds. But it's no good to you when you're lying unconscious at the end of the second round, to be honest. And I'm worried that, you know, did he lose his in-out kind of on his stole explosive stance? Did he get that out of his game in order to rebuild his cardio up? Because all of that explosive movement is going to cost you in your gas tank eventually. Rather than you're slugging forward and kind of slumped down boxing, trudging forward, you're not using that much energy doing that. He was looking to land big power shots against Poirier in the second fight, and Poirier was well able to take them. You know, he was hurt, but he took them, and I don't think McGregor was expecting that. And it's up to McGregor now to pull something out of the fire here. And I'm kind of leaning towards Poirier myself, to be honest, coming into this fight.
So I'm going to try and sew this up in a bow.
Go.
I think MMA moves incredibly quickly, right? I don't think if you spend time focusing solely on one thing, right, or degrading what you determine MMA to be as a step up for something else, which is essentially what we saw in the second Poirier fight. McGregor essentially said it himself, that he was using Poirier as a warm-up for the Pacquiao fight, right? When you, I don't want to use the word disrespect because that's not right, but when you downplay the effectiveness of MMA and the difficulty of MMA and how fast the game moves, what happened on that night was it was something utterly simple that unraveled McGregor's entire game plan. But that to me is cataclysmic as to a showing of what McGregor is now, right? McGregor hires out his own gym. He turns up to fights on a yacht. You know, he's been reported that he doesn't have a coach anymore per se. He runs his own track camps. He writes his own training plans, etc., etc. If that didn't work for Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali or any other great, I don't see why it would work for Conor McGregor. The difficulty I have is we just don't know where McGregor is right now. It's quite clear that McGregor is not at the height of his powers, right? He's not the McGregor that turned in a performance against Eddie Alvarez. I completely agree with Robbie that he definitely won the first round against Poirier and he definitely looked good. However, you clearly saw, in my opinion, he hit Poirier with a straight lift and Poirier took this big, deep exhale like, oh, I can take these. And it's at that point that rolls me into the thing that Firas Zahabi once said, and I think spells one of the big weaknesses in McGregor's game. And Firas is like, look at him. He's a supremely conditioned athlete. There's no problem whatsoever with his cardio. He panics. And when he panics, it's like anyone that's ever competed. If you have an adrenaline dump, You could be the fittest guy in the room and your cardio will drop through the floor, right? And I think you can see that against Nate in the first fight, elements of Nate in the second fight. And when he's getting hit with that calf kick, he's like, fuck me, I need to barrel through these and hit him with a left hand. But Poirier had taken those left hands, right? Now, if Poirier does engage in a wrestle heavy approach, McGregor of old had absolutely phenomenal takedown defense, right? Phenomenal, widely underrated.
His takedown defense is still good today.
And that's my point, right? And if if Poirier, we saw it in the Poirier second fight, right? If he wants to employ that wrestle heavy stance, maybe that plays into McGregor's game, knowing how much he's built on that takedown defense. But to your point about Lee, about not being all that excited, I think Ian sort of summed it up. Every time you lose a tiny bit of star power, right? And I think as massive a star as McGregor is, for the hardcore fans, the shine of he's going to come in, talk a bag of shit, call his shot, and then take it, it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore, right? So now he's just a really special fighter that was. Now, he could go in against Poirier and blast him out of the water. He could. He could go in and grind out a 5-round decision, right? He could. I think this fight, and I know I said it in the last breakdown, but I'm going to say it again in this one. This fight will really, truly show us where McGregor is in his MMA career. I think if he loses this, we're going to have some serious conversations about the level of competition that McGregor starts to face. Maybe he goes and does the Diaz match. Maybe he goes and takes a Masvidal match. Maybe he goes and fights Logan Paul, right? And makes millions of dollars and absolutely obliterates this guy. But who knows, right? But I think if McGregor loses against Poirier in the weekend, the days of McGregor fighting for a title is done.
Yeah. I think, I got caught out before the second fight because the projection that Conor was given across to everybody was that he was in the right mental state. He looked fantastic going into that second fight. Like, he looks in phenomenal shape coming into this third fight too.
Yeah, man.
But it's all down to the mental aspect. You can have your right mentality on the build up. You can have your right mentality training, but you also have to maintain that mentality when you get into the cage as well. And to fight through adversity. And McGregor, like you said, is a good front runner fighter. But when he starts to lose a little bit of control in the fight, he does kind of panic a little bit and maybe look for ways out. And this is the truth. This is the fight that will define, like Harry said, if he's going to be a championship fighter or if he's just going to be fighting money fights for the rest of his career. The Nate Diaz fight is always in his back pocket. Win or lose this fight. Masvidal might be there too, but I reckon it would be Nate Diaz all the way, which would be probably a pretty winnable fight for him with the way both fighters are in their careers right now. But I'm excited to see what he comes out with here. This is a real big test of character here for Conor McGregor. And I'm, he's gone back. I've seen Peter Queally doing some training with him. He's ditched his family for this camp as well, which is good. I liked it. I liked that. I didn't like the fact that he came in the yacht and he was surrounded by his family and he was in his comfort zone in the second fight. And you need to, like I said, fight game is all about sacrifices, and you need to make those sacrifices in order to get yourself into the right mental state of mind to go in there and fight another man. You have to garner that energy of being away from your family and how tough and how much you miss them and going into the grind every day. All that stuff molds your mentality before you go into a fight. All those sacrifices. So he's making those. So he has, inactivity was the excuse. They didn't know about leg kicks last time. That was the excuse. Well, there'd be no fucking excuses after this fight. You're either going to go in and you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. And that's about it. You can't, no ifs, ands, or buts will come out after this fight. You're like, Conor McGregor is either good enough to get this win or he's not good enough anymore. I still think he has it inside him to get that win. He has it inside him, but he has to get it out of himself when he gets in there. You know what I mean? You just don't suddenly turn into a bad fighter. Yeah, you lose a little bit here and there, but he's not at a stage in his career where he's on a downward spiral. He peaked a couple of years ago, but he's still a top quality fighter. He still has that ability, like Dustin Poirier as well. Like he came in there and fought Poirier, who was at elite level, like lightweight as well. You know what I mean? Like he is no scrub whatsoever, and you know, it'll be just as big a win again for Poirier as it would be for McGregor as well. And you know, talking about it now, I'm kind of getting a little bit excited about it. You know, it's the first time I've like sat down. I've been thinking about the fight for the last couple of days and trying to break it down and stuff, but I haven't really sat down and talked to anybody about it until now. And yeah, it's kind of getting the juices flowing, as they say. But
you're welcome.
This is all down to Conor McGregor. We know how good Dustin Poirier is. We know what Dustin Poirier can do. He showed that in the second fight. Dustin Poirier's mentality cannot be questioned after that. I think this fight is all surrounding McGregor and what's really going on with him and what he really has left inside of him. If he truly wants to go back and challenge for belts again, this is the fight that he needs to prove it to everybody that he can get it done.
There is something to build on what Harry said as well, though. Sorry to interrupt you, Robbie. It will be
no.
Is the camp side of it. Matt Brown from ATT is a phenomenal coach and massively underrated. His game planning is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at little details that make a big difference, Conor McGregor is undoubtedly in phenomenal shape. But if he's kind of running his own camp, like you say, it's not worked for people in the past, why is it any different now? Versus a very structured approach from Brown and the ATT kind of machine, which is phenomenal at the minute. And I don't think we get enough credit of how good they are. I think that could be a real big differentiator as well.
Yeah, it's down. I'm very curious. I don't know. I've seen Peter Creeley over there, like I mentioned, but I don't know who else he's been sparring with. Mm-hmm. But you know, he's been sparring with other SBG guys, and I think that in the past, that probably and his sparring partners maybe for the second Poirier fight maybe weren't up to scratch, because when you get some maybe younger SBG guys in there sparring with Conor McGregor, they have that level of respect for him where there might be an awe at saying like, oh shit, I'm sparring Conor McGregor now. Where in comparison to just bringing in some guy that has no affiliation to SBG, doesn't give a shit about Conor McGregor, pay him to go in there and spar. And that's where you need to get your work in. Some guy who doesn't give a shit, but that's Conor McGregor, and who's actually going in there to spar and put on some good work with McGregor, that has no allegiance to him, that doesn't, not that it doesn't respect him, but, you know, is not looking at him in awe or anything like that. You know, when you talk about him sparring with maybe younger SBG fighters, like they're going to be, like they would be idols of McGregor, you know, so you're not going to get true sparring work in with that level of sparring partners, I think. So I always think that he should have took himself out of the comfort zone, but he likes to be in control of his camps, and that's no secret right now. You know, I think it'd be interesting to see what kind of a game plan that himself and John Kavanagh can manifest coming into this third fight, because like Poirier has a lot more in his back pocket, as in terms of what he can do. You know, he has the confidence to know that he can beat him on the feet right now. And he also has the wrestling in the back pocket. He has leg kicks, and like, you know, he's in a number of ways to win this fight. And I feel that McGregor has less ways to win this fight, whereas that he needs to land a big shot and finish him inside the first round or the second round, or it could end up being
Robbie
a tough night.
On that topic, I mean, I think I've got 2 points, but the first one I want to address, you mentioned that there's only one way for McGregor to win it. Why are you guys all so convinced that Poirier is going to be moving away from the leg kicks when they worked for him so well the first time around?
It's too obvious.
Because I think they're going to be expecting McGregor not to be coming forward with a boxing stance anymore, and they're still going to be there. And I think that, you know, I would be betting on that he will land a couple of leg kicks. But for Poirier, if you're going to rely on that game plan again, you need to be expecting McGregor is going to try and counteract that. So you're going to have something else. You're going to have something else prepared in terms of game plan to try and counteract what McGregor is doing.
The analogy is the UFC game, right? The first fight was you just spam X and just leg kick, leg kick, leg kick. This time it's not going to be there. The leg kicks will be there. You have to set them up better.
Yeah. The thing that gets me is that it's how long has it been since the last fight?
6 months, 8 months, something like that.
Yeah,
8 months. It's been a while, but well, 8 months is a long time to shift your game plan. And I'm not saying that it's going to be as easy as last time. Clearly, if there was a very successful tactic that worked last time, they're going to put in the first thing that McGregor's team are going to do is address that issue. Mm-hmm. It just strikes me that, okay, so normally when I would make a pick, what I would say is what happened last time. Is there a clear reason to think differently? And at the moment, we've not seen anything clear from McGregor because he's not fought in that time frame. I get that he's going to put in a game plan to change that. It's just all three of you seem very convinced that the leg kicks are that he's going to be doing wrestling instead of leg kicks. And it
the first thing he did in the first fight was shoot in for a takedown.
Yeah.
So, and that got McGregor thinking about the takedown instantly, which kind of could throw McGregor off his game plan too. And I'm not too sure and I'd love to hear, maybe Dustin Poirier did say it, but I haven't heard it yet. But if the number one game plan was to calf kick the leg, because I don't know if Poirier would have been expecting McGregor, because we weren't expecting McGregor to come out and fight the way he fought in that second fight. So if something is there, you're going to take it. And I think that's what happened in the second fight. That leg kick, the calf kick was there for Poirier all day long. And McGregor's just standing in front of him, just trying to land big shots, planting down on his lead leg. That leg kick is there. And a fighter of Dustin Poirier's ability is going to notice that. And I think that, they landed a couple in round ones, and then into round two, they went even more heavily on him, because I'm sure Mike Brown just noticed it in between rounds as well.
So it just strikes me that it's going to be pretty obvious where I'm leaning in terms of my pick, that if someone's comfortable fighting in a certain style, and then they are forced to address that and change it, even if you've got a while to change it up without another fight to break it in live, I can't imagine McGregor is going to be forced to change up his style in order to address that. I wonder how comfortable McGregor's going to be changing up his style and changing it to maybe it's what it used to be. Maybe he's got experience in it, but he is still forced to adapt to the leg kicks. If that is going to be,
is he changing his style, or is he reverting back?
I was going to say
I think he changed. I think he changed his style somewhat going into the second fight, and which cost him. So it's more so go back to what worked for you in the past is probably the best way. And then just to reiterate my point is that what I would worry about him going back to his old explosive in-out style is that it is going to cost him cardio, and if he doesn't get the job done early, his gas tank will empty a lot quicker than what it would if he was to, it's a double-edged sword for McGregor. You do your explosive movement, you try and get him out of there in 2 rounds, or you stand and try and land big shots and get the leg kicked off you. It's tough. Maybe they've come up with a different game plan again altogether. Maybe he's tweeting Dustin Poirier not to take him down because maybe he has something in the works. He could be looking to try and land those big elbows that he's landed before up against the cage. Maybe he's saying don't shoot for a takedown in order so that Poirier does shoot for a takedown, because he's going to be prepared for a takedown. Every fighter is going to want to take Conor McGregor down. It's as simple as that. So if you're not going to be preparing for that, you're fighting a losing battle already.
I think realistically, McGregor's not. He's not an idiot enough to think that calling Poirier a dusty bitch for doing takedowns is going to stop Poirier doing takedowns. No, if anything, it's a double bluff. More likely than not, it's just something to psych Poirier out and not actually change his style in any way. It's just to upset him a little bit.
Anything that Conor McGregor tweets out, you take everything with a pinch of salt, especially when he's talking like that.
But it's working as well, because I saw a clip of Poirier in the interview with one of the UFC staff, and they asked him about the calf kicks, and he was like, well, I've not really worked on them because Conor's probably going to come and calf kick me. You can see the seeds that are being sown kind of coming to everything Conor does, and everything Conor tweets is calculated. It's not just kind of a whim. He's doing it for a reason. And I think the style will change. The game plan will change. And I think it might have a bigger impact on Poirier in terms of overthinking, because Conor's got to change his style to reflect what happened last time. Poirier is thinking what Conor might think to then change his style to then account for what might happen. And that's a really convoluted way of saying my point, which isn't very articulate. But,
no, but I get it though. That's what we're all doing here. That's why you guys think that he's going to shy away from the leg kicks, because he's going to try to adapt to what he expects McGregor to do.
Mhm.
And Harry, I'm guessing you want to move on to the next fight because
absolutely. We've been talking far too long about this McGregor fight. We're going to move to picks, right? Because otherwise we're going to be here. This will be the whole podcast. We could do it.
I'm just
right?
proud. I'm proud of myself that I didn't give the picks away early this time.
That's
good one,
Normally I let slip, and
there's the rest of the card to go though.
we
didn't I know.
We didn't even get into the apparent staph infection that Conor's got either.
Oh,
he's
through this.
Right.
I don't think it's that.
Give me a pick,
I think Poirier by decision.
Ian.
Poirier TKO KO round 4.
Robbie.
I'm picking Poirier. I don't know exactly. I don't know round and method, but I think the leg kick's going to play a bigger deal than you think. I think he's just going to have to be more clever about setting them up.
I think Poirier decision. I feel like McGregor's going to have a really strong first 2 rounds. I think the third is going to be the swing round, and Poirier will probably win the fourth and the fifth. And I
think it might look a lot like the Dan Hooker fight for Poirier.
I feel like it's going to look a lot like the second Nate Diaz fight in terms of the swinging of rounds.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that worries me going into the fight is that McGregor in round 1 goes from here to here, where Poirier goes from here to here. You know, Poirier grows into a fight a lot better than Conor McGregor does, and I feel that, you know, when McGregor is put up against it, I think that he might buckle again. I hope it doesn't happen really as an Irishman, but I have to be realistic too, and think, you know, I don't know how driven McGregor is, and we'll find out on Saturday night. I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
That's some grade A journalistic integrity right there.
Indeed. Right.